When I first began writing about politics in 2005, it was the heyday of the so-called blogosphere. The most read bloggers on both the left and right that built huge audiences were writing 2 paragraphs of invective at a time. And the conventional wisdom quickly emerged that to succeed in new digital age media, you had to write extremely short posts designed to feed an angry and polarized audience, prepackaged polemics that flattered their preconception, never challenged them, and always keep them hooked with anger and other intense emotions. But having just spent the prior decade as a constitutional lawyer, I probably lacked the ability and definitely lacked the desire to comply with those rules, and so ended up doing exactly the opposite. Focused on the war on terror, I began writing daily, 4,000-word, often highly legalistic articles. And my audience quickly began growing and never stopped growing. And that proved to me that there is always an audience out there that craves substantive and well-reasoned analyses, even if it takes a lot more time, attention, and energy to consume. And ever since, I decided I would rather have an audience composed of people with healthy attention spans than those who need constantly kinetic and frantic entertainment. And that's how we planned the format of this program. So with that in mind, we wanted to use what I explained at the top of the show as our last program for the year. We'll be back producing nightly shows right after the new year on Monday, January 2nd, to not only examine what we regard as the most important stories we cover during 2022, but also to identify the common themes among them, the core dynamics driving them, all to better understand what happened over the last year and to better anticipate what is likely to come in 2023. To make this more coherent and structured, we've divided the stories we covered into different topics, and they'll look at each one at a time. In many cases, there are common threads running through all of them, and our hope is that by the end of the show, those will be clearer than ever. So, before I begin to delve into the specific topics, I want to begin with a video clip that many of you likely have already seen. It really went viral and made the rounds because it is so incredibly revealing. It's from an interview that Sam Harris gave in August of 2022, where he was asked by the host of the program what he thought about the media's lies right before the election about the Hunter Biden archive, namely that the documents there were Russian disinformation, that big tech ended up taking that lie manufactured by the CIA and censoring it. And Sam Harris proceeded to explain why he regarded that, all of that, as justified, namely because the most important goal that was paramount to all others was stopping Trump, and therefore anything done in the name of that goal became justified, including lying. Listen to what Sam Harris said, because I believe it really reflects the prevailing mentality of elite political and media circles.
I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared, right? It's like, there's nothing. First of all, it's Hunter Biden, right? It's not Joe Biden. But even if whatever scope of Joe Biden's corruption is, like if we could just go down that rabbit hole endlessly and understand that he's getting kickbacks from Hunter Biden's deals in Ukraine or wherever else, right? Or China. It is infinitesimal compared to the corruption we know Trump is involved in. It's like a firefly to the sun, right? I mean, like there's just, it doesn't even stack up against Trump University, right? Trump University as a story is worse than anything that could be in Hunter Biden's laptop, in my view, right? Now, that doesn't answer the people who say it's still completely unfair to not have looked at the laptop in a timely way and to have shut down the New York Post's Twitter account. Like that's just a conspiracy. That's a left-wing conspiracy to deny the presidency to Donald Trump. Absolutely, it was. Absolutely, right? But I think it was warranted. Right. And again, it's a coin toss as to whether or not
Sam, I'm sorry.
That particular piece
I'm really sorry. I was the one that said we should move on, but you've just said something I really struggle with there, which is
the kids in the basement?
Fuck the kids in the basement. I'm interested in democracy. You're saying you are content with a left-wing conspiracy to prevent somebody being democratically re-elected as president.
Well, no, I'm content. Well, but the thing is, it's just not left-wing, right? So Liz Cheney is not left-wing. right? Liz Cheney is
You're
doing
content with a
everything in her power.
conspiracy to prevent somebody being
but
democratically
it's not
elected.
but there's nothing conspiracy. It's not. It was a conspiracy out in the open. But it doesn't matter if it was. It doesn't matter what part's conspiracy, what part's out in the open. I mean, I think it's like if people get together and talk about what should we do about this phenomenon. You know, if it's like if there was an asteroid hurtling toward Earth, and we got in a room together with all of our friends and had a conversation about what we could do to deflect its course, right? Is that a conspiracy? You know, like some.
I mean, there's so many parts of that that are shocking that every time I watch it, and that might be the 10th or the 15th or the 20th, I genuinely end up like those hosts, kind of like my jaw on the floor, just shocked that someone would come out and say that. But honestly, I think Sam Harris deserves a kind of credit in the way that people who are candid about their sociopathy deserve more credit than people who hide it. He's expressing not this aberrational rogue view that only he holds. That, what you just heard, is absolutely the prevailing and overarching mentality of the entire liberal political and media class when it came to the last 5 or 6 years, and that continues to this day, given Trump's intention to run again in 2024 and the ongoing existence of not just Trump, but his movement. It's, to begin with, the premise, which he states right there, is that Trump is such a singular evil, almost unlike anything we've ever encountered before, that anything that needs to be done to stop him, having the media conspire with the CIA and big tech to lie and deceive and manipulate the public and suppress critical information through censorship, is justified because we need to defend democracy from Trump. So, for one thing, it's always been the height of irony that the people who claim that they're defending democracy, as he just did, are always explicitly advocating the core attributes of authoritarianism, the very opposite of democracy, like censorship, like the union of corporate and state power to manipulate public opinion, a hallmark of fascism itself. But note the hubris that lies at the heart of all that. It may be true, maybe you agree, that the corruption that the Hunter Biden laptop exposed about Joe Biden, the attempt to trade on his family's name to pursue business deals to profit his son in Ukraine and to profit himself in China, pale in comparison to the corruption that he says Donald Trump is guilty of. Maybe that's something you agree with. But that's the point of journalism. Journalism is to unearth all of the relevant information, particularly about the two people seeking the most powerful political office in the country, the presidency, and to divulge it all to the public so the public can make the decision and weigh those factors to decide for themselves what they think is the most important. But people like Sam Harris believe that their knowledge and their sense of values and their judgment are so superior to the masses that the masses cannot be trusted to make those decisions on their own. And therefore, the masses have to be deceived and manipulated. Evidence has to be hidden from them because they can't decide for themselves what's best. They need people like Sam Harris, who are highly educated, who went to the right schools, who come from the right families, who think clearly in good progressive ways to do it for them. That is absolutely why the media participated in these lies and why to this very day they justify them. They don't regret it at all for the reasons Sam Harris said. They may not be as honest as he was in that clip because they know saying that undermines what they're supposed to be doing. So they won't admit it that candidly, but that is absolutely the only explanation for everything they do and say. And at the end of the day, they kind of do admit it. When you press them, when you put them in the corner, when you force them to explain why the censorship that has been escalating over the last year, why the lies that they fed the public on purpose, knowing that it was a lie, as we've seen from the Twitter files, that the lie that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation, which was clear from the beginning was a lie, and yet they still ratified it. When you force them to finally acknowledge the real reason, this is what they will say. That the movement that is represented by Donald Trump and the tens of millions of people who voted for him are so dangerous and evil, unprecedentedly so, that any measure that we undertake in the name of stopping him, authoritarianism, fascism, journalistic deceit, hiding information, manipulating the public, and using the internet to censor are all justifiable. This, to me, is the overarching philosophy that explains everything we're about to look at. And I unironically thank Sam Harris for being one of the few people to have the courage to admit the rotted, malicious mentality that drives them. So with that really crucial context in mind, let's look at some of the most important stories of 2022. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update. Catch our full shows for free, live weekdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on Rumble, and join our locals community at greenwald.locals.com for all of my written journalism, exclusive after-show Q&As, and more.